Welcome back, everybody, to Freaky Tales Friday evening. I'd like to thank everybody who's joining us right now. I'd like to thank everybody in the live chat. I'd like to thank everybody who subscribed and everybody who shared. I'd like to thank everyone who is here pretty much every Friday. Now, I made an announcement a couple of weeks ago that we are going to be doing Freaky Tale podcast every other Friday. But the reason why I did it twice this month back to back is because I'll be out of town next Friday, so I won't be able to do it. But next week we'll skip. The following week we'll be back. So we're going to do it every other Friday, and we're doing that because of filming. So other than that, for those of you that want to call and share your stories, we're going to be live tonight from 7 to 9. So we're going to be posting up that number. And when it does come up, don't be afraid to call. You want to share a story, you have a question, anything you want to share, anything you want to say. Maybe this is a story that's been passed down to you guys from your grandparents, or maybe a next door neighbor, maybe a relative, or whatever. But call in and share it with us. We'd definitely love to hear it. Once again, if you'd like to visit the website, documixery.com. So some of you still want to email your story if you like. Once again, freakytalespodcast@gmail.com. You could do that, or you can just call at freakytalespodcast.com, freakytalespodcast@gmail.com, or you could just call when the number's up. So without further ado, please allow me to introduce my very special guest on Freaky Tales Podcast, Olivia. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being back. I know last time you were here, it was me, you, and Mad Dog. Okay, shout out to Mad Dog. Then he came back, and I told him, that I wanted to have you here. And, my whole thing is this, that I had such a great time, and the fans had such a great time when you guys were here. I thought, let me bring you guys back individually, and then eventually you guys will come back on together. But other than that, for the people that may not remember, can you share a little bit of your background on what you do?
Yeah, of course. I am a scare actor. So basically, if you've ever been to Not Scary Farm, I'm like one of those monsters that torments you. I've been doing that since 2014. And just from that, I've just gotten into different acting gigs, modeling gigs, special effects stuff. So, and yeah.
Now, when you first, what was it that motivated you to, if you will, to scare people?
I've always been kind of into scary stuff and the macabre, and my family's always kind of been freaked out about that, and just kind of like that odd black sheep of the family. And right when I turned 18, and I was done with high school and sports and stuff, because school and sports were my main focus. I decided I had been to Knott's, I had been to Universal, and I thought, I'll just give it a go. And so
now let me ask you this, because I haven't met a person that worked at Not Scary Farm.
Okay.
But how many times a week would you do it?
I haven't worked at Not Scary Farm specifically, but I know for them, they do it like Wednesday through Sunday, and depending on maybe later in October, they'll do Tuesday, like maybe have 1 or 2 days off during the week.
I mean, that's a lot to be going around scaring people.
Yeah. Luckily for the ones I've done, it's usually Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and maybe a Thursday.
Wow.
So it's less grueling, but it's exhausting, but I love it.
No, it's a dumb question, but obviously you enjoy it. Does it ever wear on you, like, oh man, I gotta do it again?
Sometimes I like experimenting with characters, because I don't really have a set one, but no offense to guests, but they're the ones that kind of make me just because it's been better this past year because of COVID, because when I worked for 17th Door with Mad Dog, we had reservations, so people knew that they were coming in, and they could prepare, and they wouldn't get drunk, whereas years before, people would just kind of, hey, let's go to a haunted house, and they'd already be drunk or just be kind of an ass.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
this was a little better than other years.
So sometimes you do get some obnoxious people.
Yeah, and that kind of wears on you a bit. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, because I've seen where, for an example, whether it was at Not Scary Farm or at Universal Studios, during the Halloween haunts, I forgot what Universal calls it, but I've seen guys that were mad because their girlfriends got scared of the guy that was chasing them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's what you go there for.
Yeah, you pay for us to scare you.
Yes, and then you're going to get upset. So,
yeah.
There's something that I wanted to bring up that is kind of like, this is what's trending right now, and it is and I forgot the name, but it's about the Cecil Hotel, downtown LA, about the woman that vanished.
Yeah, Elisa Lam, yes.
Elisa Lam, exactly. And most of you guys know it, that we brought it up on previous episodes where this woman is the woman that's famous for, if you will, and I hate to even say it that way, for pushing the buttons in the elevator. She peeks out. She's looking. It almost looks like something or someone is following her. Yeah. Now, there's always been a debate about that people have said, I think it was someone there. Other people believe in the paranormal, that she was seeing stuff. And then other people like to believe that maybe she just stopped taking her medication and she was just hallucinating. Yeah. You haven't gotten a chance to see it yet?
I haven't, but I've seen many bits and like shows that have touched on that, saying exactly what you said. Like it was probably like a mental breakdown or blah blah blah. But I'm definitely leaning towards it. Maybe the mental health factor was a small factor, but the paranormal pushed it over the edge and like took advantage of it.
Yeah,
sure.
And it's very interesting. I encourage people to watch it because, if you like this kind of stuff, you'll definitely enjoy that one. Because how she got into the tank, I really do not know.
I have no idea. That's the scariest part about it, honestly.
Yes, and I'm not going to give it away, but it's one season, 4 episodes. On the 4th episode, the man who performed the autopsy on her gave his own theory, I guess, on how she ended up naked, how she ended up in there, how the lid was closing. It was really, really disappointing because I walked away thinking to myself, I think these guys are trying to hide something. That's what I got from it, and that's what was disappointing. I thought it was well made, thought it was well documented, but they pretty much blamed it all on her, and I'll leave it at that. Yeah. Then there's another one that before the show you were telling me that you actually wrote a paper on the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez. Can you share a little bit about that?
I did. So I go to school at Saddleback College in Mission Viejo, and I'm part of our newspaper, The Lariat. And I recently wrote an article a couple days ago that just got published about the Night Stalker, and it's more not a hard news story, just kind of a fun little thing, since Netflix came out with the docuseries about the Night Stalker. People have been kind of up in arms about how gory it is, and it's like, it's not that gory, but it's disturbing because there's information that wasn't shared up until now, kind of thing, which I get. And I thought it was kind of appropriate because he actually struck on the same street as my high school boyfriend in '85, and that was where he committed his last like big crime. Thankfully he didn't murder the people, but he assaulted them and got into their house. Yeah,
like I said, and that's the creepiest thing about that guy, was that this guy would literally just go into your house,
Yeah, and I don't know what possessed him to go to Mission Viejo of all places, and it's a very calm town. It's a very small, nice town. Nothing really happens there. And I told my class, I pitched the idea to my teacher, and everyone just like, they had no idea. And I'm like, yeah, it was just on blah 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 street.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my god.
Yeah, it was.
You need to post that. You need to.
Yeah, he was once there. I mean, he was pretty much everywhere, and that's one thing I think that drove a lot of people crazy, was that he didn't have like a set pattern.
No, not at all. Could have been anyone.
Could have been anyone, anywhere. This guy didn't care. And even after he got caught, he was just like bold about it. He didn't care, for him to yell out "Hail Satan" in court and not care, You said, I wonder what possessed him. I was going to say the devil, but
I know, I was thinking the same thing. Possessed, pun into whatever.
But but now, well, for those that are interested, once again, who haven't seen it, that's also on Netflix. I think that Netflix has been getting better on their documentaries, so I'm glad, because now I have something to watch, because I rarely ever watch regular TV. If I don't watch Netflix, like a documentary, I'll put on a scary movie, because I pretty much watch scary movies throughout the year. No, it's okay. You can put your arms up. It's just the old table. But now, you know what? I wanted to ask you something, because during the week we talked about the two topics that we were going to talk about, and one of them was the paranormal. And I know a lot of us have experienced seeing things, heard things that we just cannot explain. Now, the thing is, it just doesn't happen to you, doesn't happen to me, it happens to people all around the world. So obviously there is something there is something out there that we can't explain. So we make podcasts like this to shed a little bit of light, not that we're experts, but to share experiences, share stories that might have happened to us or family members or even friends.
Make it less taboo.
Right, right. Was there anything that pops into your mind that maybe you might have experienced or went through, when it pertains to the paranormal?
Yes, I have many. I know I shared quite a few experiences the last time I was on here, and I have plenty more, but start out with a small one. There's a place called Black Star Canyon. You've probably heard of it. It's in Orange County. It's a hiking trail. It used to be a sanctuary, like a reserve for Native Americans, and there was a siege and murder of a lot of the Native Americans, and I've hiked there quite a few times. And I remember this one time I was it was for a high school project, I think, and I went there with my dad, and we didn't realize how long it was, but until we actually got to like the dirt trail part, it started to get like really, like, you couldn't see the parking lot. It was just really creepy, and I had heard stories like, oh, it's haunted, there's Satanists that go there, and it's clearly people just making fun of it,
right, with
like blue graffiti. It's like, no offense, I don't think they'd actually draw that much attention, right. Anyway. We heard chanting and drums, and there are homeless people there, right. But it sounded like a group of people, not just, it was really creepy. Okay. And there was nobody really there then? Nobody was there. It was starting to get to sundown, and people were going back, and so and that's somewhere you don't want to be, because you don't want to be there at night. Yeah, you don't want to be there at night, because I've gone to on a lot of hiking trails, especially the ones, the local, I don't want to say local ones, but more like what's the Griffith Observatory? Yeah. Okay, I've gone there a lot, but when the sun starts coming down, I leave, because there's no lights there. Yeah. There's no lights there, and sometimes, and there's cliffs, and so I've come down, but I've never experienced that. But there is nothing out there, so whatever you might have heard, it's unexplainable at times, and I'll tell you what. Well, I won't mention what they were practicing, but I saw something that really, really, and I'll use the old 80s word, bugged me out. I went to a friend's house, and I remember he told me, we're in the garage. He said, I played the drums. And I said, okay. Walked in there, I'd never seen anything like this. And he told me, but you have to put this on, you just can't walk in. And I'm not going to say what it was, but I just said, nah, I'm good. I said, I'm not going to walk in. If I have to dress up he goes, well, it's the spirits that will not accept you if you don't dress a certain way. And I said, I'm good. I said, I'll just stand at the doorway. That's what I told him. So I stood at the doorway, and I knew his wife, and he had other people there, and they had a fire right in the middle of the garage, almost like something they bought at Home Depot. They threw wood in there, and the fire was high, and they were throwing stuff in it. And before you know it, his wife,
who was dancing around the fire fell on all fours, and I'm not going to lie to you, and she started howling like a dog or like a wolf, you know, and it really freaked me out because I've known this family and she had never acted like that before. And I remember after I asked him, there were other things that he told me, but after this whole thing was done, I asked him what happened. He goes, "Oh, spirits are coming into her." That's what he said. And I was like, "Oh, okay, interesting." You know, I just thought the whole thing was just like crazy. But the part that threw me off was when she was on all fours, like literally like on feet and on hands, like not on her knees, like a dog. And she had her face up and she was looking at the corner. And I remember when I looked at the corner, I could have swore that there was a dark silhouette right there. I don't know what that was, but I remember my buddy was like where you're at, but a little bit farther, and he was playing the drums. The fire was in the middle, and the way she was howling was over here. So finally, when she came out of it, I was talking to her. She was telling me she was exhausted, and I said, "Does that always happen to you?" You know, because they said they get together like every week.
Yeah.
And she goes, sometimes, and she goes like this before I left. I said, "Well, I'm going to go ahead and take off." She goes, "Let me walk you to the car." So, okay, she's walking me to the car, and she tells me like this, "I know you saw it." And I said, "Saw what?" He goes, "It saw you." And I said,
"Oh, no."
Yeah, I said, okay. She goes, "Look, whatever you do, it's not going to hurt you, but it could follow you home." Okay, and I just said, "Look, I don't know what you guys do here." I said, "But I don't want this thing following me home." She goes, "Then just pray whatever you do." And I was like, okay, this is what I get for coming, you know. Something
I didn't
may
sign up for this.
Something
Oh
may
my
follow me
God.
home. But I think that's the part, and I couldn't lie to her because she caught me off guard when she said, "I know you saw it."
That gives me chills just thinking about it.
Yeah, and I was like,
Like, you didn't need to say anything. Like,
yeah. And the whole time that I was seeing it, it was just weird because my friend was looking at it, and the other people that were sitting around, there were tambourines and some other stuff, and there were kids in there too. And I'm thinking to myself, like I don't know what this is. I asked them later on, like what they were practicing, and he told me, and I don't want to share it on camera because I don't want to offend anybody. If anybody practices that and they're thinking that maybe I'm trying to make fun of it,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing that. I'm just sharing what I've experienced. One thing that he did share with me, because I asked him after he told me, and after, like, this is months later, after she told her husband what I saw, they called me over, we were talking, and we're sitting in the living room, and he told me, "Can you identify it?" And I did. I just said it was dark. I said, to me, it was like a man. I saw a man. It was a silhouette. I could see right through it, but it was dark enough where I could see the shape of a man. And then she said, "Oh, yeah, that was," and then she gave a weird name. Like she had a name for it. And he goes, "Man, you're lucky." He goes, "I never get to see him." And that's what he told me. And I was like, "Why would you want to see it?" I said, "It freaked me out, man." He goes, "Well, she says that he's here. I never get to see him." He goes, "So you may get to see him here." I go,
So she's like the vessel to bring whatever
"Yes."
it is.
And that's
And he's
what,
just kind of a bystander hoping to see.
Yes.
That's crazy.
and that's what he told me. He goes, because, you know, spirits into her body's strong enough to accept these spirits. And I was like, oh, man, this is freaking me out here. And I've been friends with this couple for years. So I asked him this. I said, "Look, be honest with me. Has anything weird happened to you since you guys have been doing this?" And he said, "Not to her, but to me."
Interesting.
Yeah, and I said, "Okay." I said, "Like what?" And he looks at her and he says this, "Can I tell him?" And she goes, "Okay, but don't say that it's him." Whatever happened to him, she didn't want him to say that it was that person that did it to him.
Okay.
Almost like she's protecting it, I guess.
Or didn't want him to get mad.
Yes.
Whatever it was.
And he goes, "Okay, well, I got yanked out of my bed by my ankle." He said before. And I said, "Wow." I said, "That's crazy, man." I said, like, after that, he goes, "Well, that was the first time." And I was like, "The first time?" And I said, "Well, how many times did it actually happen?" He goes, "Like 5 times.
Oh boy.
And I said, okay. And then she interrupts him and says, because he didn't want him being intimate with me.
Oh.
Okay. So.
Okay.
So yeah, and let me tell you something. I've known several women, and when I say I've known them personally, that have told me that they woken up the next morning sore with bruises between their legs. So me knowing that, I remember I asked her, have you ever woken up, with bruises between your legs? Because I've heard the women and then she looks at him and she goes, you told them, huh? And I'm over here thinking like, okay, what did I get myself into?
Oh, no.
Yeah, and she goes, yeah, but it wasn't him. It wasn't him. So you better not say his name. And I was just like, look, I'll tell you what, we're just going to go ahead and stop right there because I'm not trying to get nobody into trouble. And then he was about to say more because he said, well, that was just the beginning of it. And she was like, stop. So believe it or not, that was the last time that I ever went to their home.
Oh, boy.
Because here's my thing. If that paranormal stuff is real, I'm not trying to bring it back home.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm. So whatever they were experiencing, here's what it sounded like to me. And I don't know if some of you guys are out there listening have experienced stuff like this, but it almost sounded like whatever this paranormal thing, whatever it was, didn't want him touching her. Almost like that's my vessel. It's not yours. That's why maybe he can't see him. Whatever it was,
Jeez.
Yeah, so, and here's another one. I was the last time I went to his house, but I saw him at the market one time. And he said that him and his wife went on a trip. I'm not going to say where. I'll let you know after.
Okay.
But that they were in a hotel, and she fell asleep. That the hotel got the reservation wrong. That instead of having a king size bed, they gave them 2 small beds, so they didn't even sleep together. I guess I would have just put the beds together, but it says she slept on one bed, slept on another, and he said that every night he would hear walking back and forth through his door, like if somebody was walking back and forth outside of the door. Always, he said he would open it and nothing. And I believe I shared this part of the story before on a previous episode where he said he laid down on his stomach. He said, I'm just going to go to bed. I'm just going to ignore it. He said he took a shot of tequila, laid down. He said he took off his pants, took off his shirt. So he's laying in his underwear on his stomach. And he said, and I'm not going to lie to you, he goes, I heard, he said, but I was facing the door. I heard the door open. So I'm thinking, I'm looking at my door. It's not opening, but I hear the door open. I hear the door close. He's thinking, probably the neighbor. So he just lays down, turns around again, and he said he literally felt, here's what he said, a man lay on top of him. That's what he said. And he said he couldn't move. And I said, well, how did you know it was a man? And this is what he said. These are his words. Because I felt it. And I said, you felt it? And he said, yes. He said, and when I finally got enough strength to turn around, my underwear was down to my knees. And I asked him this. Now, he was alone, so he was able to talk. Mm-hmm. I asked him this. Do you believe that it was something there at that hotel already? Or do you believe that it was something that followed you guys? He told me like this. I believe it's something that followed us. He said, but I never told so-and-so, speaking of his wife. Mm-hmm. I said, you never told me? He goes, no, because she doesn't want me to say who it is. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've held on to the stories for years.
Yeah.
Those stories are at least about 15 years old.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And how you mentioning them not wanting to say whatever it's his mm-hmm. name. I've heard and seen on numerous occasions, like if you do that with said being, it just fuels it. And maybe she was low-key scared of it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Like I said, I don't know what they got involved in, what they were doing, but to me, obviously, it wasn't normal. It's not something that I want to experience. And it was always, according to him, it was always only hostile towards him, never to her. But what I got from it was that I think she was scared that it would get hostile to her. That's why she was always trying to be quiet about it.
Yeah.
You know, and when I asked her about, you know, I know women that have woken up with bruises between their legs, you ever experienced that? And when she said, oh, you told them, it seemed like it happened on several occasions. And I don't know if she just like let it because now she's afraid of it.
Maybe that's a touchy subject for her because maybe she didn't expect it to get that far, and that's
right.
Scary. That's really scary.
Yeah. But anyways, I don't want to hog up all the time.
Oh, no, it's okay. Just speaking of not wanting things to follow you home.
Right.
I remember the scariest place that I've been to, paranormal wise, is the Zach Bagans Museum in Las Vegas. Yeah.
Okay.
I went there with my sister. We had a family getaway, and my parents were like, "Oh, fuck that! I'm not going. You guys can go. I'm not. That's fine." And it was me and my sister.
Okay.
And I watch Ghost Adventures. I follow them a lot, and I know that this is no joke. They might like play it up a lot, but this museum is no joke. And I'm born Catholic, raised Catholic. I don't pray as much as I should, but that was the first time I said the Hail Mary and the Our Father back and forth, like
on repeat
from a very long time. And because I wasn't trying to let the fear get to me,
right? But
better safe than sorry. I need power on my side to keep beings away, even though I have the utmost respect for spirits just in general, and I know not to provoke or intimidate or make them mad kind of thing, because that gets you into really bad situations. But yeah, when we walked in there, it was so heavy, and I'm like, this is no joke. There was the group of us, it was about, I think, 16 people.
Because you have to make reservations, correct?
Yeah, you did. And I'll tell you this, we were the 2 of 6 people who made it through the rest of the tour without needing to be let out. It was that intense, and I think a lot of our group didn't know what they were getting themselves into, and weren't. I could tell that a couple that was in our group had knowledge about the museum before coming in, and so they were really excited to be there. And then most of the people were just like, "Oh, it's scary. Let's check it out. Right. It's a blah blah blah." Just kind of like a macabre attraction. Let's check it out.
Would you say, for those that have never been there, and I'll kind of give you my story about that after, would you say it's more of a, maybe I'm using the wrong word, but for lack of better words, more of a spiritual thing that you're feeling, or more of a paranormal thing that you're feeling, than instead of seeing scary stuff with your eyes?
Yeah, it's definitely a psychological journey.
Okay.
Obviously not everyone who goes in there has an experience, right. But just knowing that the potential that these objects have,
right,
and what they've been known to do to people, and you're feet away from them, it takes a lot of you to just not let the fear get to you, because that's what evil spirits feed on. Right. And then there's some people who just don't take it seriously, and they turn out fine, which is good for them.
Right.
But people who don't respect, even if it's evil or not, you need to respect,
of course,
these spirits. And some people just don't get that.
Right. You know, let me say this, because, okay, I've seen several where Zach Bagans appears on the tour sometimes on YouTube or whatever. I watched it, and he almost seems like not fazed about it at all.
Oh yeah, that's basically his second home, and he's bought all these. It's his life.
Yeah. Okay, you're right. Okay, maybe he's just so used to it.
Probably.
Okay.
Probably.
But here's the crazy thing. Okay, my brother who started this podcast with me, we did the first 2 episodes, okay? But he's very, very knowledgeable, especially when it comes to UFOs and Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster and conspiracy theories, okay? Him on one of these shows, he actually called out Zach Bagan.
Oh.
He said, "You're a fake, you're a phony." He said, "And I'm going to go to the museum and expose you." That's what he said, okay? And I said, "Are you serious?" And he talked about ghost hunters. Oh, those guys are fake. Those guys are this. Those guys are that. I just listened, okay? Well, he took a trip. He drove by himself to Las Vegas, Zach Bagan's museum. And he goes, the whole time I'm there, he goes, "I cannot wait to get there." That's what he said. He said he pulls up because I guess you have to pull in, and the front door's right there where they lead you in, I guess. And they do have some securities and like some golf carts.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Okay. So he said he didn't even go in. He just pulled up and he looked. And here's what he said. He said, "Tony, I'm not going to lie to you, man. I looked, I felt something, and I said, this is wrong." And I said, "Fuck that shit." And I left because I burned rubber. He didn't even go in. Okay? And so he called me as soon as he left, and I go, "But you were talking all that shit, man. You were going to expose Zach Bagan, you're going to expose him, and you were going to go in there and play with the dolls and stuff." And he was like, "No, man, he just didn't feel right." Yeah, exactly. Bad idea. But he didn't. So a couple of months later, he hits me up and he tells me, "Let's roll up there." So he tells me, I don't care, but I want to go in." So I told him, "I want to go in." And he was like, "Oh, man." He
Don't
goes,
wait outside. Don't wait outside.
He said, "You go in, I'll wait outside."
Oh.
So we pulled in, security comes, and he goes, "Do you have a reservation?" And that was the first time I had heard of a reservation. I said, "Nah, I don't have no reservation." He goes, "Yeah, you need a reservation." I said, "Well, I got money." I said, "I'll just go in with those people." And he said, "Look, I'll tell you what." He goes, "Back up right here." So we pulled in and we backed up right by the sign. So we're pulled in, and then he goes, "Okay, I can let one of you guys in, but you're going to have to go around through the back." He says, "And pay the guy out there whatever he wants. He's probably going to be about $60-$70.
Okay.
And he'll let you in without a reservation." So I got out of the car, and I started going through my cash. And when I started walking around, he tells me, "Hey, let's get out of here, man. Don't do this. Don't do this." And the guy's telling me, "If you're going to go in, you got to go right now." And he goes like, "Come on, Tone, don't do this." And he was real freaking serious. And I was like, "You brought me this far to convince me not to go in?" And they started to let the people go in. And I said, "Forget it then. Forget it." So I just took a picture by the museum and by the sign, and we just left.
Man.
Yeah, but I wanted to go in. But you know what I wanted to go see was the actual doll from Annabelle. But I heard that was only there on display for a while.
No, she's they only did that for a couple episodes, like for a special. She's in, I think, Connecticut, and she's owned by the Warrens family, I think.
Would you ever want to see that doll?
Yeah.
Okay. No.
I don't think I'd go near. I think I'd pray and I'd just be on my merry way through the tour, and if I saw her, just yeah.
Now, how would you feel if, let's just say, you went and the guy opens up the little door,
No.
takes her out, and does this? You can hold her.
Oh no, I'm booking it out the door so fast.
Really?
There's no way.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because my brother, before he went to the museum, he was talking all that mess, and he was like, "I would have grabbed that doll, toss it," and and I was like, okay. But one thing about that doll is that when people that have seen it or have gone close to it, they all felt something. Everyone has felt something. People have cried. Some people said they got scared. Some people said they got the chills. It was always something. So
Yeah, people have died. There was a guy who like tapped on the glass and is like, this is BS, and he died in a motorcycle accident on the way back from the museum.
Now, you know what? Now, let me ask you this. Since we're speaking on the paranormal, do you believe that place itself is haunted, or do you believe the objects are haunted, or do you believe it's just a mixture of, when I say haunted, it's, you can experience the paranormal there. Do you believe it's just the museum itself, or do you believe it's just the objects?
I think it's mainly the objects because of so much energy that's in that.
Yeah.
And I remember Zach talking to not the owner, but she lived there as a kid. She said weird stuff happened. Not super crazy, but some stuff had happened. So it might be a little bit of fuel to that, but I think it's mainly from the objects.
Okay.
For sure.
You knowing that because it looks like a house. Obviously, you said it was a house.
It
so
was
somebody,
a house, yeah.
Okay, somebody lived there. Let's just say if Zach said, you know what, I'm taking all my stuff and I'm taking it to New York and I'm making a bigger museum. Okay. Let's just say the house was for sale and you won the house on a raffle. Would you live in there?
I don't think so. I don't think so. As much as I enjoy the macabre and the paranormal,
Right.
I don't think I'd be able to live in a place. Maybe, I mean, I get like, we'll touch on this later, but I get a lot of visitations from my grandparents, and that's fine.
Okay.
It's a little freaky, but I know it's them. These spirits from these objects, I don't know them.
Right.
And I'm on their territory.
Right.
They've been here longer than me,
Right.
and a lot of them might have moved with the object itself.
Right.
But the energy is probably still there. Some of it, anyway. So
Yeah.
I don't think I would, honestly.
Yeah, no, neither would I, because I think we would be asking for it. You know, that's one thing that I never do. You know, that's one thing that a lot of my friends that are into paranormal, you know, the paranormal, that they'll say, you know what, I won't go looking for it. You know, that's why a lot of people are skeptic of ghost hunters, because they're saying pretty much like these guys are looking for it. You know, and it's not a good thing to go looking for it. If it happens, it happens. You know, but we're not going to go looking for, you know,
Yeah,
the
that's when
paranormal.
shit happens, when you're not expecting it.
Right.
For sure. When I was little, I was searching for stuff to happen, and very rarely did something happen.
Now, you said when you were little. Now, what would encourage you to look for something?
I mean, I wasn't super actively searching, but if I went to the cemetery to visit my grandfather's grave, I'd like want something to happen there.
Oh, okay.
Or if I was in the house where my grandma lived after he passed away, I was looking for him, kind of thing. I wasn't looking for stuff that I wasn't familiar with. Mm-hmm. It was more stuff like with my family, deceased family. Nothing too insane.
Okay. You know, one thing that I will say that I've experienced one day, and I was a youngster, and I was still living here in this city, and my dad did a lot of reading. He was another one that, because the UFOs, the Bigfoots, murder mysteries. Mm-hmm. And I remember one time he said that una revista in Spanish is like a magazine, you know. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there were newspaper magazines, almost like the Inquirer or the Star. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but those were like paper magazines. Mm-hmm. And he was like always saying, "Me voy a comprar esta revista. I'm gonna buy this magazine." And what it was, I've noticed that in the front, it had the Satanic Bible from Talez, and I guess somebody was talking. They were talking about Satanists. He had never bought that one, even though he had always bought all the UFO stuff, the Bigfoot stuff, the murder stuff, but this one, I remember being at the market. They had it right there, right when you were about to check out, and I remember he showed it to me, and he said, he goes, mira. He goes, mira, puros satánicos, look at a bunch of Satanists. That's what he said. And so he put it on there. Okay, cool. And when he used to hide his magazines, I used to always go in there and look at them. He used to lift up the bed, and he used to stick them in between mattresses. That's where he kept all his magazines. I used to always think I was going to find porn, but I didn't. No. So that's what I thought, because I found out later that he's
paranormal stuff.
Yeah. So, and I picked it up and I saw it, and I saw that how interested he was in it. So I sat there, and I'm looking at it. And then I see people in hoodies, naked women. And I remember now there was a picture of Aunt Olivia when it looked like he was about to stab her, like in the chest. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that was just a ceremonial picture for the magazine or what. And there was also a picture of an orgy. It looked like they were drinking blood, like just a bunch of crazy stuff like that. And I remember as I was reading it, something fell from his dresser, and I looked, and it scared the hell out of me. And I was like, but I didn't see nothing on the ground. So I'm looking, I'm like, okay, so I put the magazine back in case he comes, and I was looking, I was like, the hell? I walked out, and I probably went in, back in the room maybe within the last 2 weeks before he confronted me about it, maybe like 5 different times to go back, and I continued to look at that magazine. There was something that was intriguing to me about that magazine, not like the other ones. And one day he walked in and he caught me. This was the last time. And I remember looking at the one where Anton LaVey is about to kill this naked lady. And there were people around him with hoodies, and they had their capes up like this. And I looked at that, and he said, ¿Qué estás haciendo? What are you doing? And I looked at him, and I said, nothing. That's what I said. But he knew that I had to go in between to the mattress to grab it. And he told me like this. He goes, Dame esto, give me that. And he tears it apart. He goes outside and throws it in the trash. He said, I don't want you reading that. He said, do you know the stuff that I've been going through? He goes, ever since I left that in here? Yes. So I said, what? I said, well, why did you have it in here? He said, I was waiting for your mother to leave. And I was like, oh, all right. I still don't know why he had it in there that long. And he told me in Spanish, a man's going to appear to you now. That's what he told me. Now, at that age, I didn't see this man. But I said, well, where does he appear to you? And what freaked me out, he opens the door and he says, right there. And I was afraid to look outside the door. He goes, he always stands right there. And I said, okay. Now, at that age, I didn't see that. And that was where we kept our towels, and it was right before we walked into our restroom. Okay? This is no lie. We moved out of that house, and I had a lot of attachments there at that home. So what I did, about a week later, after that house was up for sale, I broke into that house by myself. And I was already buzzed. I walked in with a 40 ounce, and I was just sitting right there, and I started crying because I started remembering that's where my family lived. So I'm sitting right here, and I'm looking at the restroom right over here. And all of a sudden I hear, somebody's walking. I got the hell out of there. Okay, because my thing is like, okay, that's that dude that my dad was talking about. It just wasn't like the house setting. Somebody was walking. And if I can't see it, I'm out of there. And it was so funny because I actually went back about a week later, not back to the house, but I went to go visit my dad, and I told him, I got to tell you something. He said, remember when you told me that? And he goes, yeah. And he looked at me, and I went back to the house. And he said, why? Nobody's there. And I said, I know. I didn't see him, but I heard it exactly what you told me. Yeah, at that time, I was in my early 20s still. But when he told me that, I was like 10, So, yeah, so I know that there is things out there. I know people have their own interpretation, but for me, there's something out there that we cannot see, and we all experience it. But I know I'm talking too much, but I know some things you want to share. So.
No, it's okay. That's really interesting. That's really scary. Back to Zach. There are just some quick things. They're kind of a spoiler if you guys are interested in going. I won't share everything that's in there, but one of the really cool things is they had a room where there was a bit of Charles Manson's brain.
No.
And or someone's brain. I think his brain. And then or his clothes, for his death row clothes, but it had a piece of a serial killer's brain in there, and it was drawings from John Wayne Gacy and stuff like that, and didn't have any experiences there. No, not his brain, his ashes were in there. And I think I'm totally mixing up the stories of different serial killers, but anyway, and then they had Jack Kevorkian's van. I don't know if you know about him.
Dr. Death.
Yeah. He was a pioneer in the physician-assisted suicide, and he ethically killed people who were basically on their deathbed and they wanted to die. So his van was there. He had Ed Gein's cauldron where he cooked people. Bela Lugosi's mirror where he practiced scrying, and that was the
Like
first room.
The real mirror, the Bela Lugosi mirror.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Bela Lugosi.
I love Bela.
You know, my dad is the one who introduced me to all the black and white horror movies, where there was Lon Chaney, where there was Bela Lugosi, where there was Boris Karloff. A lot of those black and white horror movies. I think that's what got me into all of this was him. You know, my dad. He introduced me to music, to film, comedy, everything. He was the first person that I've ever known. I was 1 year old and he already had a camcorder. So I have footage of me of 1 year old.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and I think that's what got me into directing. Everything was inspired by him. But I remember him mentioning years ago that there was a mirror. What was it exactly that he would see or do in front of this mirror?
He would scry, which is trying to like conjure spirits through the mirror. So he would just like, kind of like you can scry through water, just staring, trying to get something to appear. So that's what he would do with the mirror. And that was the one thing I think my sister opted out of. She just said, I'm not going to look in the mirror because they gave you a choice for certain rooms if you wanted to go in. They're like, we're not going to force you to go in. We're not going to force you to see this kind of thing. But there were different mirrors from different people. No one of like a big name. But and then they brought Bella's mirror and it was covered. And they said, whoever wants to look through it, get in line. And my sister was like, she just got kind of overwhelmed and freaked out. And I remember when it got to my turn, that was the first kind of experience that I had in the museum. It wasn't super big, but I remember just like staring into it just for a couple seconds, and I couldn't feel my eyes like move away from it. But and then I had to like blink and then get out of line, kind of thing.
Well, you know, Bella requested that he die in his
suit, in his
in his suit. I mean, I don't know if I say it's cool or creepy or both. You know,
I mean, he was dedicated to his work.
I actually met his brother. I went to, I believe it was Monsterpalooza, son of Monsterpalooza.
Oh, okay. I think his son, Bela Lugosi Jr., goes to that a lot. I met him, so it might have been him.
No, this was his brother. He straight said it was his brother.
Okay. Because I've met his son, Bela Lugosi Jr.
And he looked just like him. And he was very, very old, and he was barely able to write. I mean, look, I know that's his brother. That's not Bela Lugosi, but he was still signing autographs on Bella's pictures. So I'm thinking to myself, like, maybe that's the second best thing. I don't know.
Yeah, blood of Bela Lugosi. And I remember I met one of Boris Karloff's daughters at Monsterpalooza, or son of Monsterpalooza, one of those.
Yeah.
And it was just like that's the closest thing you can get to them, since they're so far gone.
I don't know if I would want to look in the mirror of Bela Lugosi, but let's go back to that Dr. Death. People obviously that were dying and they knew they couldn't be healed. Eventually, he would actually bring them in the van, and he would just, when I say kill them, he would actually, he would inject them or something? He would
inject them with like a saline solution. Technology's come a long way, so it's way more advanced, but I think it was just a plain, really heavy saline solution that would just like kind of basically drown you from the inside out. I mean, like not drown, but I mean drown take over your blood vessels, and you, like after a long time, your heart would just stop, kind of thing. So it was a very peaceful thing.
And I mean, and again, we don't know if it was peaceful to the people.
Yeah, I mean, they advertise it as
you can go in your sleep or whatever.
Yeah. So, we don't know.
Yeah, because, wow. And then I always say Ed Gein, but it's Ed Gein or?
Gein. I say Gein. I think it's Gein.
And if I'm correct, he is the guy that people call the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, that's where they based off Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
And what did they have of him there?
His cauldron where he would cook body parts. And it still had dry blood on the bottom, and like from the usage, and from like a spoon he would use, like just from like a regular like old pan, just from stirring it so much, and there's dried blood at the bottom, and obviously all these artifacts are blocked off so no one can touch them, but you could see the dry blood in the bottom.
Right.
It was just like people were in that.
You know, and here's my thing, because like I'm thinking to myself, let's look at it from a different perspective. If one of my family members was cooked in there, I wouldn't want to see that. I would want that thing destroyed.
Yeah, I think the person who got it was one of the cops who was cleaning up the crime scene, and they were just giving stuff away, and I think that's how Zach got it. But I'm like, I don't know why anyone would want that, honestly.
Yeah,
but
yeah. And yeah. I know that they were saying that, I guess downstairs, is it true that there's a pentagram that you can see? I think they said you have to pay extra to go to the lower level. Did you hear about that?
They didn't talk about it much. I think in the basement, I don't think they let people in the basement anymore, because weird thing is, not the first time I went to Vegas, but the first time I went and they were almost ready to open, I went with my dad after my 21st birthday, and I wanted to go to the museum, but they said they had a leak in the a big leak in the basement, and that postponed opening. And so I was like, oh dang. But come to find out, that's where the Dybbuk box is.
Oh, okay.
And I went in that room, and that was probably one of the most eerie things I've ever seen.
Now, for those that may not know what that box was, can you share what that box was?
Yeah, the Dybbuk box is one of 10 boxes. Zach actually has 2 now. He has 2 out of the 10. So the specific Dybbuk box that I saw when I was there, it's a little wine chest that someone from a Jewish woman or someone, they use it to collect evil spirits. And so they're just like kind of a ritual, and it's supposed to remain shut. But over the years, someone found it at an antique store, and he gave it to his mother, not knowing what it was, and she had a stroke after she opened it. So this thing is very charged and very scary. They have it in a plexiglass box, maybe the thing's about this big, and then a plexiglass, and it's in the, not quite in the basement, but it's 2 stories, so I think it's on the lower story. Anyway, they said you can walk around it, but I remember there was only a handful of people that wanted to go in there, and I was standing there, and I looked at it, and I saw the door open just ever so slightly, and I go to our tour guide, and I go, you probably get this all the time, but the door to the Dybbuk box is open. She goes, yeah, I know. We've had that sealed in Zach had opened it for the show, but then shut it a few years ago. And then they put it in the plexiglass and never touched it again. She said, that's been opening so slightly since we put it here in the plexiglass. Wow. And no one, it's just so scary to see. Like, it's very, very slight. It's not, right, but you can see it's just slowly opening, and no one is touching it. Wow. And that just, I was just,
well, we're talking about paranormal, and we're talking about death. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a 5-minute intermission break, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to switch gears up a little bit, and we're going to be taking calls. So when we come back, we're going to touch on our next subject, and then we're going to open up the phone lines, and you guys can call. You guys want to share anything, maybe anything paranormal has happened to you or is happening to you, or maybe it's happened to a family member or a friend or some type, a relative. Call and share it with us, okay? So we'll be back in about 5 minutes. So we're going to take a quick intermission, and we'll be back with Olivia. Freaky Tales Podcast. See you guys soon. Welcome back, everybody, to Freaky Tales Friday. Freaky Tales podcast. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. I'd like to thank everybody for subscribing, commenting, being a part of Freaky Tales. I'm hoping for this thing to grow because what I want to do by the end of this year, I want to move into a building where we give every podcast that I do a separate room, and eventually I want to open up a different podcast where we pretty much discuss current events, and I would like to have people like yourselves that are watching come through a live studio audience, and we could just talk about current events. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's sports, whether it's news, whether it's presidential debates or whatever. I would like to give everybody an opportunity to come on the new podcast and, speak their mind. Not to argue, not to debate or, but just to discuss. With that being said, I'd like to thank everybody once again. Episode 19. It is slowly growing, but we are still here. And I'd like to thank once again my special guest, Olivia, for joining me. And hopefully this is not your last time coming. Hopefully when we move into our building, we can have you guys come back.
Absolutely.
Yes. Always have a fun time doing this. Like I said, I actually enjoy this more than I'd like doing my other podcasts. Even though I love music and I love talking music and I can talk music with the best of them, but when it comes to freaky shit, I like it. So now, you know what, we're going to switch gears up a little bit, and eventually we're going to take some calls. So what I want to do, I want to get my headset out because we want to get ready for some calls. Now, I want to talk a little bit about death. And the reason why I say that is because when we start taking calls, there's a question that I want to present to the audience. And that question is this, and everybody wants to know. What happens when you die? Now, let me ask you this. Growing up, I guess the traditional Catholic belief, because I was raised Catholic as well. Here's what we hear. If you're good, you get to go to heaven. If you're bad, guess what? You get to go to hell. Okay? And sometimes we actually even hear that there's a purgatory. Maybe a waiting place or something like that. Here's what I thought about death when I was a kid. I would always hear that when you stand before God, if you believe in God, I'm just letting people know what I was taught. When you stand before God, He brings out all the good you've done, and He brings out all the bad you've done. And if the good outweighs the bad, then you're good enough to go. So one day I asked a priest, and this is no lie, what if it's in the middle? And he said, well, you go to purgatory. That's what he said. And your loved ones got to pray you out of purgatory. And I was like, okay, well, how much praying do I need? How do I know if they overprayed or underprayed or not prayed enough? And he didn't know how to answer that. But I was always curious because I was thinking to myself, then there's a lot of people probably in purgatory. I don't know. Is that what you were taught? You were taught as a... Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. It was either heaven, hell, or purgatory. And we actually have an ongoing joke, not really a joke, that my grandpa is in purgatory. Just because he was a good guy, but compared to my grandma, if you could canonize anyone to be a saint, she'd be up there kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
So we'd joke around grandpa's still just why I get visions of him and her, but not so much him anymore. But anyway, we just joke that grandpa's still in purgatory.
Right.
Yeah.
And here's my thing about that is that me growing up, I always compared myself, and I think a lot of people do this. Here's what they'll say. Well, I'm not really all that good and I'm not really all that bad, but I'm not like that guy. That guy's for sure going to hell. That's what we used to say. Then you grow up and you start talking to people and they start telling you, no, hell was made up by the church. Heaven was made up by the church. Purgatory was made up by the church. So I remember asking a question because I like to ask a lot of questions, especially if I don't know. I said, okay, so what happens? And this is the next answer that I got. You just cease to exist. So that's what I heard. You just cease to exist. And I go, okay, so there's no afterlife? And this person said, no. Actually, it was a woman that told me that. There's no afterlife? Now, keep in mind, the way she talked to me about this was very passionate, to the point where I walked away from that conversation thinking to myself, and keep in mind, this is what she put in my head, that life is meaningless. Life is pointless.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I've had bouts in my life where I thought maybe there is nothing after this. Maybe, yeah, like all life is just like a sham, and just like you just waiting to die and just not exist anymore, and just, there's just nothing.
Right.
But it's comes in waves.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, when I was told this, I was in my early 20s. So I'm thinking to myself, like, then I might as well just party, rock out, do whatever the hell I gotta do, because I'd rather have my fun right now. Like, and believe it or not, that actually kind of inspired my crazy lifestyle as a youngster. I don't give a, you only live once anyways. And like you said, it was always, up and down, And then I remember one day I went to the beach and I met this guy. He never told me what church he was from or if he even did belong to a church. But this is what he said. Hey, he said, do you believe in heaven and hell? And I kind of quoted that lady. No, we just all cease to exist. And he says, okay, I'll buy that. She said, check this out. What if there was a hell? Where people are tormented for their sins. That's what he told me. And I said, okay. He said, wouldn't you at least want to know that while you're on this side than on the other side? And I said, yeah. He goes, well, I'm letting you know. He said, I'm warning you. And he started talking to me about hell. And talking about outer darkness, the lake of fire. It's so dark you will not be able to see your hand in front of your face. Torment. Eventually, Satan and his demons will be thrown into the lake of fire with everyone. One day we're going to have to stand before God. And I remember the way he said it because it was scaring me. And this was during the day. I was out in Huntington Beach.
Oh, my God.
And it was scaring me. And he said like this, but I'm not scaring you. I'm preparing you. That's what he told me.
Okay.
So I took it differently, And I said, oh, all right. He said, do you know where you would go if you were to die right now? And I said, well, I'm still young. I got a long life to live. And he said this, the graveyard is full of 16-year-olds. So he said, the graveyard's full of 16-year-olds. He said, you could pull out of your car right now and get hit by a stray bullet and they'll blow your brains out. I thought about it and I was like, wow. Then he said one more thing. He said, it has been given for man to die once and then comes the judgment. He goes, and one day you're going to stand before God and you're going to have to give an account of yourself, whether it's good or bad. So now let me ask you, have you done more good than bad? And I was like, probably bad. And he goes, this ain't funny. But I sat there and talked to him for maybe 30 minutes, maybe 30, 40 minutes. But what I liked about it was that he challenged me to think. So, believe it or not, that's why I chose this topic, because I like to know what people think when they when they die. Where do you go? Where do you think you go? Share with you a story, and I shared this once before. One of my friends, and when I say one of my friends, this is a guy that I truly, still know to this day. And he tells me that him and his brother never really had a good relationship with their mother because the mother was a very, very bad woman. That's what he said. And he told me, when I say she was bad, she was bad. She did things to us when we were kids. To me and my brother. And he goes, and we knew she was on her deathbed. He said, I've always heard, he said, when a bad person dies, you can always tell where they're going. He said, by their last expressions on their faith when they give their last breath. That's what he told me. I never heard that before. I said, okay. He goes, so we just went to go visit her, kind of like, let's just forgive and forget, okay, bye mom type of deal. He said, because we had no love for this woman. And to me, that's very hard because my mother's no longer here, but I still love my mother. You know, I miss my mother. I adore my mother. And I get very emotional when I talk about my mother. But so when he told, it was very hard for me to accept that. So he says that there was a TV and there was a window and the mom was right here. He said, so me and my brother, he said, we're not even trying to pay attention to her. We're just hoping she takes her last breath. That was their attitude. So we're looking at the TV. He said, and I just happened to turn around and see if she was sleeping or what. He goes, and she had a horrible, horrible face she was making. He goes, and she wasn't looking at the TV. She was looking at the window. And she was looking, and he goes, she had such a scary face, and she couldn't breathe. She couldn't, like, talk. She was so terrified that she was, and she was almost trying to get their attention. And that he this to the brother. And when they both turned around, that she made this horrible, horrible face, and that's why she just laid back and died. She was pointing at something. Not at the TV. She saw something by the window. Okay? Now, let me tell you another one. That one obviously wasn't that good. And he tells me like this, where do you think she went? And I said, I don't know. I don't know. The second one is not as long, but he said that this is somebody else. And actually, my friend went to go visit his dad that was dying of cancer, and the mom was there at his feet, and she used to always somehow, for some reason, rub his feet. He goes, I was to the left of my dad. He goes, and my dad was just pretty much just his eyes closed. He goes, and he was still there, he was breathing, but we knew that any minute he could leave now. But he said he mustered up enough strength where he opened up his eyes and he stood up. He sat up as much as he could. It was almost like he was doing a crunch. He stood up and looked at his wife and stretched out his arms, and he whispered, I love you. That's what he said. And he said that he laid back down and he looked up and he said this, it's beautiful. And he passed away. He said that was his last breath. So hearing these stories from people that I know personally that witnessed it, still I think to myself like, okay, where do people go? What happens after death? I don't know if you shared with me during the break that you would go to the cemetery. Can you share a little bit about that? You're talking about your grandpa, if I'm correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So both my grandparents on my dad's side are deceased. And I was actually just at the cemetery yesterday. Okay. Because it was my grandma's, the anniversary of her passing about a week ago, and I just hadn't had a chance to go visit her. Uh-huh. But yeah, like I said, we would joke that my grandpa's in purgatory and grandma's in heaven kind of thing. Uh-huh. But I think there's just so much not evidence, but I mean experiences that prove to me that once you die, you kind of have a choice to come back to Earth if you wanted to and come and visit. I don't get a lot of visitation dreams, but when I do, it's on kind of important days. It was really funny just this like a few months ago, or I'll start on my birthday last year. My sister said I was hoping for a visitation dream, but I didn't get one. My sister said, oh, Grandma came to me in a dream last night, and she said, happy birthday. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Why would it be you and not me, kind of thing? And I didn't really think anything of it, but I'm like, oh, maybe she got us mixed up, kind of thing, because we look very similar. Right. And a few months later, I was going on a weekend trip just up to the mountains, and my sister didn't tell me this until I got back. She said, Grandma came to visit me again, and she was just like standing over my bed, and she said, she looked around, she goes, you need to clean this place up because you have to pack tomorrow. And she was like, what? My room is what are you talking So she didn't really think anything of it, but when she told me that, she said, and then I remembered you were going away for the weekend.
Right.
But the funny thing is, when she was living with us in her last years, my sister and I shared a bedroom. And my sister is still in that bedroom. So I think that, like, we were just joking, like, oh, Grandma, I'm not in there anymore. I'm actually in your bedroom now, blah, blah, blah. And after we said that out loud, I got dreams of her visiting me instead on prominent days like Christmas and saying relevant things like, oh, you saw so-and-so today, or you saw Aunt so-and-so. And I'm like, oh my God, I think she was just like, she actually thought that I was still in that room kind of thing. But that was just an interesting little experience that I had recently.
Now let me ask you this. From what you know, do you believe that they could come back, or like they could still stick around?
Yes.
Okay. Because you know, I'll be honest with you, when it comes to things like that, I'm a very, very skeptic, okay? But I would never call anyone a liar or ridicule them for what they believe. If anything, I would want to be educated, or at least want to know. There are, again, and then there are people that believe that maybe they're trapped in between worlds or dimensions, or however they want to put it, that they haven't gone yet, and then they get their relatives to come visit them. I'll share a story before we start taking some calls, okay? This guy, I was working with him in the music industry, and he came home after a session that we had, and he found his dad. He was living in an apartment. Found his dad face down, dead in the middle of the living room. And you know, he was breaking down when he was telling me this. And he was almost like, out of love and out of concern and desperation for his dad, he wanted answers. So he was asking me, what do you think he went, man? Do you think he went to heaven? Do you think, you know? And he was a Catholic as well. And I said, I don't know, man. I just said, I don't know. I said, if there is, you know, heaven, I said, or there is a hell, that's not up to me. That's what I told him. I said, that's not up to me. So about a month after the funeral, he calls me up and we start talking. And this one really, really freaked me out. Really freaked me out. He said this, that certain times in the morning, his dad used to walk into the room, sit on his bed by his feet, put his hand on his legs and say, son, you know, what do you got planned for today? That's what he would tell him. He said, if not every morning, every other morning, but my dad would always come in and always check up on me. He said, because we always had communication. And he said, I'm not going to lie to you. He goes, a couple of times, I saw the door open and I felt the bed go down right by my feet. Wow. He said, and at first he said, I told Mom, and she said, oh, that's your dad. He's coming to visit you. He's coming to talk to you. He's still here. And he said, at times they even like, I don't know what you would call it, like believe that he was still there, that they would actually, nobody would sit at his seat, and they would actually set up a plate for them to come eat, okay? And one day he said it was in the restroom. His mom wasn't there. His mom served them all. I'll be back. And he said he heard a chair fly across like the kitchen, like almost like if somebody threw the chair. So he said when he came out, it was his dad's chair. He said he didn't touch it. When the mom came home, that he said, hey, listen, I was in the bathroom and I heard that chair, you know, fly. And she said, I knew it. She said, I pissed him off. She goes, he doesn't like to eat that for dinner. I just figured maybe it wasn't him, so I'll just set up a plate. And he goes, but he didn't like that. And he goes, really? God. So that he used to slam the chair on the ground like he would go to bed. Because he would wait all day for his dinner. He didn't like it, throw his chair, go to bed. So, make a long story short, he said it happened a couple of more times in the morning where he would come and lay on like the edge of his bed. So he said, I finally had a dream. He said, and the dream was this. He said, it was so real. I had a dream, I got up out of bed, I answered the phone, and it was my uncle. He said, my uncle who passed away. And he was like, hey, what's up? And, for the sake of the conversation, I'll call his name Mark. Hey, Mark, it's me, your uncle. What's going on? How you doing? He goes, and he sounded so cheerful. And he was like, yo, uncle? Yeah, this is Mark. Yeah, I know, Mark. How you doing? And he goes, yeah, man, how are you? And he's explaining to me how this dream is playing out. And he says, yeah, man, I miss you, uncle. I miss you too, Mark. Yeah, I love you. Hey, you know who's here with me? And he said, no. He goes, your father. He's here with me. And he says, can I talk to him? And he goes, yeah, hold on. Here he is. And he said for about 10 seconds, there was just silence. And then he says, Mark. And again, I just gave him that name, Mark. And he goes, Dad? And he goes, and he was real serious. And he's telling me the story of the phone. He goes, Tone, he was real serious. He goes, Mark. And he said, Dad? He says, how are you doing? And he says, I'm good. I see you. Yeah, thanks, Dad. And he goes, I only wanted to ask him one question. That was my biggest concern. Dad, I need to ask you something. And he goes, okay. And he goes, how's heaven like? Please tell me how heaven's like. He goes, and then the phone went dead. And he goes, what do you think, Tone? And I said, I don't know. I said, maybe it was just a dream. And he says, yeah, I think so too. He said, because maybe we're not allowed to know what heaven's like, but yeah, man. Yeah. He goes, so he just hung up on me. Thinking. But there was one little detail that I left out, that he asked his dad, what happened to you? I found you. And he goes, yeah, I know. He goes, I had a heart attack before you walked in. That's what he said. He had a heart attack. But yeah, that was a wild one for me. And because I saw my friend suffer from that, so here's what we're going to do, Anthony. We're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines, and hopefully people call in, and I'll go ahead and put the number on the screen. And I have a question for you guys, and maybe you guys can answer, or unless you guys just want to share a story. If you guys want to share a story, you guys can share it, keep it under 2.5 minutes. And but I want to ask you guys, what happens when you die? I want to know what you guys think. Do you guys think there's a heaven? Do you guys think there's a hell? Do people hang around? Is there a purgatory? I want to ask the audience this question. So, caller, hold on a second. Hello, caller. Hello, we're waiting on you. Are they still on, Anthony? Okay, they hung up. So we're going to go ahead and keep the headphones on, and we're going to wait for our next call. And my question to you guys is, what happens when you die? Do you guys have any idea? Have any of you guys ever experienced maybe dying and coming back? We would definitely like to hear your guys' stories. Or if not, maybe you guys just want to share something freaky that's happened to you guys, or something that's still happening, or something that's been going on with a family member, or something that's been passed down to you guys. So don't be shy.
Really quick while we're waiting, just a quick little story from my mom had a dream about my grandpa I was telling you about. She said in the dream.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes. How you doing? And welcome to Freaky Tales.
Tony, how are you?
Good.
Thank you. So I actually have talked to you a few times now, but I wanted to actually share something regarding what you're saying.
Yes.
So before I started seeing and hearing and all those things, I had an asthma attack where I actually passed away for a few minutes, and it's hard for me to talk about it, but I'm gonna tell you what I saw.
Okay.
It was white. It was completely white, and just some staircases, like como que you could walk up, stairs, and you couldn't see anything else. It was just white.
Okay. And let me ask you this, and this may sound like an odd question because I'm trying to figure out a way to present it. Do you remember how long you saw this or how long you were there for? Oh, wow, they hung up.
Oh.
Okay, well, maybe we'll take another call. You want to go ahead and continue your story?
Oh, yeah, sure. So right after not right after, but I mean, a little bit after my grandpa had passed away, my mom had a dream that she saw him in his den. Oh.
Okay, caller.
Hello?
Yes. Where are you calling from?
Hi. Bakersfield.
Bakersfield, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, Tony. I was just calling because earlier you were speaking about a situation or experience that you had with that lady that was howling.
Yes.
The crazy thing is that happened to my aunt. My aunt was possessed, my God, like back in the 90s, and she did sort of the same thing. She got on her legs and her hands, like, you know, like a dog walking,
Yes.
and she was barking. So
Wow.
I just heard you say that, and I was like, I just wanted to share that with you, that's happened.
So you've
to,
actually...
well, not to me, because when it happened, I was,
Now, say, so you actually witnessed that yourself?
Or it's just
no,
a story.
not me. My
She was-
mom and dad. My mom and dad.
Oh, okay. So they saw that.
I was, they told me about it because I was younger. I was a kid, but ever since I was little, I've always like experienced stuff, seen stuff, and I don't know. I just always had issues, even till now, you know. But my parents were the ones that were telling me about it. You know, that my aunt was possessed and that she was like literally like on her, you know, crawling like a dog and barking at her husband and was gonna like attack him.
Wow. Wow. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah,
You wanna-
so-
that's crazy. That's like someone else watching this
Yes.
has had a very similar experience.
Yes. You know, now let me ask you, since we're on the subject of, and this is not a happy subject, but since this is Freaky Tales, I will have to ask you, what do you believe happens when a person passes away?
Me, myself?
Yes.
I believe that some may go to heaven. I believe some may go to hell, and I believe some stay with us.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you for answering that. I just like to ask because I like to see what other people think. Some people have said, like I said before, that we just cease to exist. Like you said, some say purgatory. Some people say that some people are still here. Some people are in heaven. Some people are in hell. I just like to hear, other people's opinions on the subject. So, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We greatly appreciate
You're
your time.
welcome. Thank
Thank you.
you
Bye-bye.
too for listening.
Have a good night. Okay, we're going to keep the calls going. Meanwhile, hopefully we can get through your story.
That's okay. Little bits and pieces to keep them
Yeah.
Here we go.
waiting.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, where are you calling from?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, where are you calling from?
Oh, I'm calling from Fresno, California.
Fresno, California. How are you doing tonight?
Good, man. I just watching your show, man, and for the last 2 weeks, it sounds cliche, but for the last 2 weeks, I've been tormented by demons, and I live in a ranch in
Okay.
Fresno, and my sister, my mom, we were Catholic when we were younger, but we're Christian now, born again Christian.
Yes.
So basically, for the last 2 weeks, I'm actually sleeping in our RV because I left the room because my room is if you go in my room, you can feel the chills. And for someone that doesn't believe in ghosts or demons, I'm a true believer because for the last 2 weeks, I've been studying, and I had a pastor come in, and he told us that he saw a legion of demons on our property.
Oh no.
Wow.
And so demons, there's different types of levels, they say, in hell. So there's different, let's say, greed, money. There's a demon for that. So basically, I don't know, man. I feel like I'm being tormented because of money, because I had got a lot of money, like over 20,000, and I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know what opened it up, but they say they come from portals.
Okay.
It could be from emotion. You know, it could be anything. But for the last 2 weeks, as we speak right now, I'm in the RV watching your show,
Yes.
and I can hear the footsteps on the top, and they're walking. You know, so
Goodness.
Wow.
so
That's crazy that
Wow.
it's that bad. You
Yeah,
had
and
to
the-
get
and
a
the Jake-
pastor.
yeah, so it's overwhelming.
Well, you know what, man? Thank you for calling, man. I really appreciate that. Hopefully, I mean, I just hope that they end up leaving soon, brother. All I can
Yeah,
say is
hopefully you
continue
get that taken care of.
continue to pray. But let me ask you a question on the topic that we've been
Yeah.
discussing on for this past several minutes. What do you think happens when a person passes away?
Well, I know for a fact when we die, we leave our flesh, and our souls are going to be judged by God. So we have all these different religions, like you could say Allah, Buddha, but it all leads to one God. And so I believe for all the sins that we've committed on earth, we were going to be held accountable. So if you committed murder or whatever it is, there's going to be a place for you in hell to be tormented by the Satan has different types of demons, and basically they're in charge for their tormenting. But at the end of the day, God has the key to hell, because light can't always overcome darkness.
Okay.
So I just feel that once we die, there's going to be a special place for us, you know, for our good deeds and the people who did harm.
Okay.
on earth.
Thank you, caller from Fresno. We greatly appreciate it, and hopefully those
Thank
demons
you.
leave, brother. So have a blessed night. Stay protected.
Yeah.
Stay in prayer.
Thank
Okay.
you. God bless.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and continue to take some calls until we get the next call. Maybe you want to. Hello.
That's okay. I'll just wait for my son.
Hello?
Yes. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling through Milan, New Mexico.
Okay. If you can turn on your TV, because I can hear myself talking in the background.
Florida.
Okay. If you can turn on your TV, because I can hear myself talking in the background.
Yes. You had a question or you something you wanted to share?
You had a question or?
Yeah. I have a story.
Okay. Go ahead, share it. If you could turn down your TV because we can hear it in the background.
Okay. Go ahead, sure. If you could
Okay,
turn
let's-
down your TV.
Anthony. Okay. Yeah, there's only so much we can tell you guys. Listen, respectfully, I would like to say that when you call, please turn down your TV because we can hear it in the background. We hear our echo, and many times it's hard to communicate. So if you want to call, please turn down your TV. We have another caller?
Hello.
Yes, where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm calling from Denver, Colorado.
Okay. How you doing, Denver, Colorado?
Hey, I'm good. This is Javi G, Big Tony.
What's-
Javi G from the Javi G Show, Colorado.
Oh, that's right. As a matter of fact, I'm going
Hello.
to hopefully see you next week.
Yeah, we're gonna hopefully see each other. I was gonna tell you, like on the high sea, I was saying, "This ready from Reseda?" I've been waiting all day, and I finally got through. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, man, I've been noticing some crazy stuff in my house and stuff, man.
Uh-huh.
Like when I record in my studio, like videos, like I have a lot of orbs, like a lot of crazy stuff going on in them. Like I don't know if it's evil or it's good, but I just be like when I film, like I could just see orbs just floating everywhere. Like it's insane, but it's nothing bad. But I could always hear shit like falling off my shelves and stuff. Because I kind of inherited my house from my aunt.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
And sometimes when I stage it, I'll walk around and I'll burn some sage, just to get the spirits out or whatever.
Yes.
And it seems stuff goes good, but then stuff will just start falling off things again, like just falling.
Yeah, you gotta be careful when you're doing that.
Fall like that.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say you gotta be careful because there's a specific way. I'm not a professional on it by any means, but I have heard you need a professional to stage your house. And if you do it yourself, you can just make things worse.
So what you're saying is that people have told you that there's a right way to sage, and then there's also a wrong way to sage.
Like if you're just doing it just without preparation, without prayer, without something, it could provoke it and make it worse. So
wow, okay,
that's probably the reason why things kind of ramp up after you sage it.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Javi, quick.
I've heard too. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Sorry.
Quick question. After you finish your story, since we're on the topic of death, what do you think happens when a person dies?
I think you go to a different level.
Okay.
I think your mind goes to like a different level. I think there's like because I was born and I'm still Catholic. You know what I mean? I still eat my fish on Friday and I, do everything I have to do. But like I think you just go to like this different level to where your body just sits for a minute.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Your mind sits for a minute. Like you leave your body, but your brain's still here, or not your brain, but your body, your mind.
Okay.
And I think I don't know. And I think once you pass I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking it's like a video game. You pass the level and you go somewhere else. But yeah, I think your soul always moves on, though. I think your soul's always floating.
Okay.
But I don't know, just stuff like that.
All good, Javi. Thank you for calling, man. We greatly appreciate it. Javi G from Denver, Colorado.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see each other next week.
Yep.
Okay. You take care now.
Yes, sir. Hopefully see you.
Yes.
See you guys. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye. Okay, we still got a couple of time to take a couple of more phone calls if anybody wants to call and answer our question. What do you think happens? Hello, caller.
Hello.
Yes, where are you calling
Tony.
from?
Santa Maria, California.
Santa Maria, California. How you doing?
Very good. This is my 10th time calling.
10th time.
I'm glad I got through.
Good. What did you want to share
we're
with us?
For a before death story.
Yes.
I would say I was lucky to cheat death. So I wanted to see if you wanted to hear the story leading up to it.
Yes.
Or just the effect.
If you can keep it under 2 minutes, brother, I would love to hear about it.
Okay. So yeah, it was November 20th. I was driving out towards San Francisco. I left the Central Coast like around 5 in the morning. I got a phone call. I removed my seatbelt, and this was 16 years ago. I'm 35 right now. Happened to me when I was 19 years old. I removed my seatbelt to get to my phone in my lower pocket. Took the call. Lost reception. Stupaki. Forgot to put my seatbelt on. Took my jacket off. Missed the turn. Fell down into a ditch. Lucky for me, there was a paramedic that was behind me on his way to work. There was some field workers that were working as well, and they, helped me. I actually flew out the window, cut my arm, face. So they wrapped my arm to save. I was bleeding excessively, and a helicopter had to come pick me up and take me to UC Berkeley to get emergency surgery. So I was losing massive blood, and I just remember getting on the gurney. And when I was young, I didn't use any drugs of any kind, marijuana, cigarettes. I didn't even drink. So they had told me that I needed to somewhat sign a paper, which I could barely even pick up the pen because I was going to need surgery, and they had asked if I could give them any phone numbers, just call my family back at home. And so I was able to give them a phone number, and I just remember seeing, the lights as I'm getting to the gurney, getting rushed into surgery. But right after that, I went into cardiac arrest for about 4 or 5 minutes, where they had to pump on my chest, put plasma into me to revive me. But the color that I did see looked very similar to the color that's behind you guys, the gray and white color, where the guy that has his hat on that poster on the left of you.
Yes.
That's kind of the color I had seen when I was speeding through like a tunnel. It seemed like a real big zoo, and then all of a sudden it just got really white, extremely white. And I woke up, and it was 2 days later, and I was in the hospital. I had my family around me, and that was probably I'm not sure if it was the anesthesia or the morphine that I was on, but I would say it was probably the best high. Me not even experiencing any drugs, but afterwards, yeah, after I got older, I experienced it, little re-erection here and there, but I've never felt, that was one of the greatest highs I've ever felt. At the time, I did have a fallout with one of my younger cousins, and I just remember being asked that question when I was getting through the tunnel. I remember seeing him, which he was still alive. If I wanted to go, yes or no, and I felt that, we still had some things to sort out, so I said no, and that's when I woke up in the hospital. And so that was on November 20th, and after that, not even a year later, which my birthday was July 20th, my cousin got into a car accident and died on my birthday. So it just seemed a little weird, that those two experiences with me. It seems like I cheated death, and we were going to go out to celebrate on my birthday, but one of my ex-girlfriends kind of saved me from the car, didn't want me to go. The car was overcrowded, so I just stood home, and 3 hours later, they were all dead.
Wow. Now let me ask you a question, and this is pertaining to the topic that we're discussing. And you said you don't know if it was the morphine or if you actually saw something. What do you think happens when a person dies?
I think you do enter another. They say that sometimes when you die, time kind of slows down, and I guess when like Jesus says, one day either we'll be resurrected, and maybe it's just for a quick second, we get into that tunnel where it's light, and who knows, maybe wake up in heaven, Yeah. But for what I don't know what it was, but like I said, it was gray. It was a weird experience. Okay. And after I did get home, hearing the birds and feeling water and feeling air, it felt all new to me, like I never experienced anything like that. So it's like I came back to earth, and all I wanted to do was sit outside, and I got to really love nature and trees and everything, and I never paid attention to any of that stuff until after I experienced the death. And it helped me become, not that I was a bad person, but, understand life a lot better and not take it for granted.
Right. I want to share something really quick before we let you go. It's funny that you said about nature, because I want to say in the book of Romans, in the 1st chapter, it actually says that, and I hope I'm quoting it right, I'm paraphrasing it, but I believe it's the book of Romans 1st chapter. It says that God will judge man for not recognizing him as the creator of this world, meaning nature. And it's funny that you said that you just wanted to be outside, you appreciated nature, and you saw things a lot differently. What the Bible, I believe, is trying to say there, that you can recognize or see God through nature. And that's a possibility that you might have experienced, just by seeing nature totally different now. So,
Definitely.
Yeah.
so thank you for calling, and we greatly appreciate it. You go ahead and have a blessed night. So,
And I want to thank you again for helping us get off our minds off of the world, what's going on today with this whole COVID-19, and getting us away from the news and the bad things that we hear, and even the things that we are experiencing in our family. So I really appreciate the show, Tony, and all the Rhodium radio that you do.
thank you very much, man.
Bless you.
That means a lot. Thank you. Okay, we're going to take one more caller. One more caller. Who's going to be the lucky caller? So this time you take it.
Okay.
So, caller, we're waiting for you. Okay. We got a couple of more minutes, and then it'll be...
Oh, we got a caller. Hello?
Bueno,
Hi. Hi, caller. Where are you calling from?
hello. I'm calling out of the 559.
Okay.
All right. You got a story or an answer to...
No, I wanted to, because of the question that Tony's giving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what do you think happens after we pass away?
I think it's kind of like when you go to sleep. Like when you go to sleep, the time, it jumps forward. Like, let's say you go to sleep right now. The time when you wake up, like it's, you jump through time. So when you die, let's say I die today, and someone else dies a year from now, we can meet up at the same place. Because like, it's like when you sleep, you jump time. That's what I think when you die. I think
Interesting.
you get judged though either way.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
Because everyone's life is different. No one has walked in your shoes type of thing.
That's interesting. I've never
Well, that's what
heard
I
of that
think. Like,
answer.
you'll get judged based on the things that you've done.
Okay. Thank you. So that means if you get judged, there is someone that is going to be doing the judging.
Excuse me, I didn't get that.
I said, so if we're going to get judged, that means there's someone that's going to be doing the judging.
Yeah, the creator.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Interesting answer.
No, that was really cool.
I appreciate that. Okay, Anthony, that's pretty much it. Thank you, callers. Appreciate it. I want to get to your story.
Oh,
I know we get getting cut off, but
that's okay.
take your time.
Really quick. Yeah, my mom had a dream that she was in my grandpa's den, and she saw him sitting, just rocking there, and he's staring forward, and she's like, "Hey, he doesn't see me." Blah blah blah. And then he looks over to her and he goes, "Oh, Maria, how nice of you to join us." And then she wakes up, and she was like, "Oh God, that's kind of scary, and there's no one else in the room. What's going on?" Soon after that, her grandmother passed away, and her name is also Maria, because it's a name that certain names get passed down with an Italian family. So
Okay.
she thought of it as like a foreshadowing of her grandma passing away. Like my grandpa was welcoming her, like, "Oh, how nice of you to join us,"
Okay.
wherever he was,
Right.
kind of thing. So yeah, that's about
I'm
it.
going to ask, since we're on Freaky Tales, I have to ask you this question. It's pretty freaky. Okay. And it kind of scared me, and it kind of got me emotional when it was presented to me. And this was, I want to say, about 5 or 6 years ago. I was sharing with a person that I know about my mother's passing, because I get really emotional when I talk about my mother's passing. So I shared it with him. And he asked me a question that I never would have thought of. And at the time, my mom has already been passed away 5 or 6 years. Okay. And so what happened was this. He asked me, we were sitting in his living room, and he points at the door, and he said this. If you can bring your mom back right now after her being deceased after 6 years, would you bring her back? And I said, Like, are you serious? Like, physically? Like she's back to Earth? And he goes, yeah. She could walk through that door right now. Would you want her to? And honestly, I said no. Because I just wanted her to be rested now. Mm-hmm. Because I wouldn't know how to act. And I'm just going to be real. I would want to ask, where were you? What were you doing? Why did you come back? And, seeing her like the next day, waking up to her, seeing her, I would be like, you're still here. It just really messed with my mind. Mm-hmm. So that's why I said no. Now, let me ask you this. Would you want to bring anybody back?
As much as the idea of them back would be nice, I don't think I would, because what if they like where they are right now? Right. Yeah. Like I was really close with my grandma, and it would be really awesome for her to see the new members of our family and what we've done so far. But I also know that when she was dying, she was suffering, and I don't want, what if bringing her back meant
she would have to go through that again.
Yeah,
eventually.
Just kind of pick up where she left off, kind of thing.
Yeah, I would definitely not want, and I've had friends that have committed suicide. Anthony, I think that thing is too loud. We can hear the echo over here. But I've had friends that have committed suicide, and I've thought about it. It's been 20 years since I've seen them. Would I want them back? And I don't think I would. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. I remember when my grandma was alive, we would kind of joke around with her, even though she was very religious. We'd say, my dad would say, "Mom, are you going to come haunt us when you're and she's like, no, when God calls me, I'm going to stay there," right. Kind of thing. And then we think that's why she doesn't really visit very often, because she's content and accepted that right. She's with God or wherever she is right now.
Okay. Yeah. Well, other than that, we've come to the end of our podcast. Is there anything you wanted to share, anything you wanted to say that maybe you didn't get a chance to say? You could say it now. Was there any other stories or anything you wanted to add or to elaborate on?
No. I mean, I'm more from the Zach Bagans Museum, but I guess I can keep that to myself so people can go and experience it for themselves. Awesome.
Any shout outs? Anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Mad Dog. Thanks.
Mad Dog.
Wish you were here.
Mad Dog.
We'll be back.
Awesome.
We'll be back.
Awesome. Other than that, I would like to thank my special guest, Olivia, for coming on the show with us. And she'll be back with Mad Dog as well. I love having them here. It is just an awesome vibe. So until you experience it, you'll understand. But hopefully, like I said, by the end of this year, we'll have a different studio where we can have also a live audience. And, we definitely appreciate the phone calls. Everybody from Fresno, Santa Maria, and I forgot Mexico and a couple other places. Colorado, yes. Yeah. So thank you to everyone. Now, next week, we will not be here. So it'll be the following week. We're going to continue to do it every other week. So next week, we will not be here the following week. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I hope you guys experienced something freaky tonight. People always tell me, for some reason, every time I watch Freaky Tales, something freaky happens. And I'm like, okay, well.
Yeah, you'll have to let us know.
Yeah, you have to let us know. Call us and let us know. So we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Thank you guys. Expected and unexpected. And let me give a shout out to Anthony for running the show. I also want to give a shout out to Alex Cervantes Enterprise. And let me thank B Scalance for helping me promote this. And Sunday, I will be here with a special guest, not on Freaky Tales, but on my other podcast. But I like to keep those separated. So once again, Olivia, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me again.
You're very welcome. And you guys have a freaky night. And we're out of here.